Hi guys, Réal Laplaine here, author, activist, amongst other things. Uh, I'm doing something I've never done before as an author. Um, After 15 publications, I decided maybe I should read some portions of my book and post them on a couple of websites so people can get a feel for what they're about and maybe compel people to want to check them out further. So, first book I'm going to start with is one of my latest books. It's called The Ninth Divinity, which is the fourth book in my crime series, which is called the Kino Crime Thrillers. It's about a Canadian crime fighter who heads up the uh, the Canadian version of an anti-terrorist group, and but it's a very geopolitical series. It involves Canada. Oftentimes, the crimes that they're investigating start in Canada, but they always end up uh, involved in following down the culprits geopolitically. They're all over the place. This particular book was written in the aftermath of Putin's invasion of the Ukraine. So the story, interestingly enough, uh, begins with a group in Canada, which is a vigilante group, and they decide that since world powers have failed to stop Putin and the atrocities in Ukraine are continuing, that they're going to take on Putin themselves. So they issue an ultimatum to Putin, and then they follow that up with an ultimatum to Kim Jong-un in North Korea too. The two regimes which have nuclear weapons, which are threatening the freedom of the world, the democracy as we know it. So um, Kino and his team, because it's a Canadian vigilante group who have decided to directly take on Putin, uh, they get in, they get engaged and have to track down this team. Only the whole story takes a real wild twist because as they begin to investigate this group, they realize that they're not a terrorist group. They're not a threat to anybody. They are in fact capable of reaching Putin and doing something about stopping the war in the Ukraine. So it becomes a division of, a situation where Kino and his team have to decide what to do. Which side are they going to play? So I'm going to read you a portion from the book, a short portion, just so you get a feel for it. And I invite you to go to my website or Amazon or any one of 100 other bookshops online and read the book, The Ninth Divinity. Uh, you might want to start with the first book in the series, but it doesn't matter. Each story stands alone. So here we go. This is chapter 22. Vladimir Putin was feeling particularly motivated today. After a shower, he indulged in his daily Turkish coffee along with a side dish of two freshly baked pierogies, a sweetened pastry with cabbage inside, a Russian favorite. Dressed and polished for yet another day at the helm of the Russian ship, Putin entered his office where yet another cup of coffee awaited him. He read through the brief prepared for him during the night, providing an update on the status of the Ukraine operation, one which he adamantly refused to call or substantiate as an invasion, even though it categorically was, but rather in his delusional mind an altruistic operation to free the Ukraine people from the hands of a Nazi regime. Of course, the only people who agreed with his perspective were the sycophants who obediently followed him, not out of devotion, but only to maintain or advance their own camps or to avoid a worse fate. Unfortunately, the obsequious following included about 50% of Russian adults, mostly the older generation, who, victims of Putin's propaganda machinery and not particularly tuned into the rest of the world, adamantly believed the narrative coming out of the Kremlin and who would not accept anything being said about the atrocities committed at the hands of the Russian army. Satisfied with the progress, although perpetually irritated by the fact that Zelensky, whom he refused to acknowledge as the president of Ukraine, continued to muster forces against his army, including support from the West, Putin called for his political publicity officer, or PPO. Ingrid Petrova, already expecting to be summoned for a daily dish of Putin dogma, sat in a nearby office. She had a sense about the meeting she was about to have with the man, especially considering recent developments in North Korea. No doubt, she pondered, Putin will want to show his bravado to the world, proclaiming that Russia remains stronger than ever and that it will not be intimidated by a group claiming such ridiculous pronouncements or even claiming to have sabotaged the North Korean missile base. Ingrid had ascended to her current position just 2 years earlier, and in that time she had gone from regarding Putin with a certain element of awe to now seeing him for who he truly was, a man driven by an unchecked ego, a man so intent on creating his vision of Russia that no one and nothing could possibly get in his way. And on that day, in the wake of the Ukraine invasion, when the world screamed back at Putin, and his response was to threaten to use his nuclear arsenal if anyone interfered with him, that was the day that Ingrid Petrova knew she was working for the wrong team. Anyhow, that's a short portion of the book. Again, The Ninth Divinity. It's not only a thriller and geopolitical in nature, because it covers not only the Ukraine and Russia, but it also goes into North Korea, South Korea, the whole thing. But it presents this vigilante group. Actually, their approach to stopping Putin is not obviously to amass a military, because they don't have those resources, but they do have technology. They do have the means of hacking and infiltrating, and they have something else up their sleeve. And to that end, this is why Kino and his team are faced with a very challenging decision whether to back a group that could actually stop the war or continue the mandates, which is to find the group and stop them. And why they should be stopped and who's behind wanting them stopped, well, that's all part of the geopolitical agenda. So, again, The Ninth Divinity. Enjoy.